necessary that we not run from that faith. I believe that we are gathered here tonight not to run from it. We came out because we felt like we needed to have something to acknowledge the profound sense of loss and grief and pain and fear in our hearts and in our nation at this moment. I believe fervently in the power of prayer, friends. So that's another truth that I'm going to share with you. I believe in its power to reshape the lives of the person who is praying. I believe in its ability to turn us away from what does not matter and towards what matters most. I believe in its ability to translate our good intentions into
gathering
action.
for
So as we come together tonight
Vegas,
in attitude
Beverly,
of
Massachusetts,
reverence and of prayer and
October
searching
3rd,
for meaning in the
2017.
midst of meaninglessness, let it be our goal to move within ourselves, to move within this community, to move within the larger society of which we are a part, away from the values that allowed this to happen, and toward the values that affirm those first responders and those humble, many of them unknown to us, heroes that Kent alluded to earlier. The people who do what is right, often painfully right, often costfully right, often at great and profound loss to themselves, in the face of this sort of tragedy. Move towards that set of ideas, so that one day, perhaps, we will be a society that values the infinite lives, infinitely valuable lives of all of its people more than it values the objects that can be used to end those lives.
Thanks, Kelly. My niece posted on Facebook yesterday that she's praying and thinking about the victims in Las Vegas. And I responded to her as her uncle to say, I'm praying and I'm thinking about all those who have lost loved ones too. But I'm also praying that we can change, come to grips and wrestle with our conscience as a nation to understand that which contributes to the senseless litany of gun-related violence. So this is a time for national, I pray, national wrestling with our conscience. I'm going to invite John Rosenthal to come up from Stop Handgun Violence and come up and share with us. John is the director of this organization, and they are now located here in Beverly. Let's welcome them.
Thank you. As a gun owner and a business person, I co-founded Stop Handgun Violence in 1994 with the late Michael Kennedy, one of Bobby Kennedy's sons. He being a victim, having lost his father and his uncle to gun violence, and me being a gun owner and activist. And together, we helped to try and change the conversation from banning guns or unlimited access to guns to how our kids, criminals, and dangerously mentally ill, and even international terrorist groups accessing firearms so easily in this country. In 1994, 106 Americans died every day from guns. Over the last 40 years, more Americans have died from firearms in the United States than all U.S. servicemen and women killed in all foreign wars combined. There are no manufacturing standards, no marketing standards for firearms. There's no background check requirement in 33 states for firearms or at thousands of annual gun shows. As a result, we have an epidemic of gun violence in this country. And the mass shootings are only just beginning. 5 years ago, we were dealing with Sandy Hook with 26 and 7-year-olds and 6 teachers. Then there was San Bernardino. Then there was the Pulse nightclub with 103. There has been a mass shooting of 4 or more people in this country every day of the year over the last 2 years. And today, there will be another one. And over 90 people, on average 91 people die a day from gun violence in this country without a mass shooting. And the sad part is, It's completely preventable. This is a man-made epidemic in order to sell guns. So in Massachusetts, we set out to change the conversation. We built a big billboard on the Massachusetts Turnpike by Fenway Park. We enacted legislation on a bipartisan basis in 98, 2004, 2014, and I am incredibly proud to say that Massachusetts, urban industrial Massachusetts, has the lowest firearm fatality rate in the nation. We are the model for the nation, and we're an industrial state. We have proven the NRA's worst nightmare that gun laws work. So we are the gun violence prevention capital of the country, but meanwhile, we live in a country that doesn't require background checks for military-style assault weapons and large-capacity ammunition magazines, like was used at all of these mass shootings. And just to give you a sense of the weapons of mass destruction that were used at Las Vegas, same weapon used at Orlando at Pulse nightclub and at Sandy Hook. It's an AR-15, semi-automatic rifle that they buy on the internet, an aftermarket device that will make it automatic, but the semi-automatic will fire as quickly as you can move your finger on the trigger, capable of 600 rounds in a minute. And you can attach up to a 100-round magazine on these weapons. Law enforcement are given 13 to 17 rounds to protect us, while Congress allows criminals and the dangerously mentally ill and even Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah come to this country to buy these weapons at gun shows and in states where there's no background check. So law enforcement's outgunned. And as a result, we are forced to live in a society where we're not feeling safe as a result of a special interest wanting their benefactors, the gun industry, to profit more. The 223 round used at Sandy Hook, each of those children received 3 to 11 rounds. It's about that size. It's made to tumble, not penetrate, and the entry wound is about ½ an inch in diameter, and the exit wound is about 1 foot. And the folks, the 527 folks, if that's how many ultimately were injured with this weapon, will be damaged irreparably forever. This is not necessary. No other country experiences it. Every country has mentally ill people just like us. They just don't happen to arm them with military-style weapons. So in Massachusetts, we ban these weapons. In Massachusetts, we require accountability and responsibility on the part of gun owners, dealers, manufacturers, and law enforcement. And lo and behold, we've proven that you can reduce injuries and deaths from guns. At some point, Congress will have to act. And hopefully, instead of what they were planning to do this week, which was deregulate silencers to make it easier to get away with shootings without detection, and to undermine our Massachusetts gun laws and every other state gun law with a national handgun carry reciprocity bill, meaning that if you have a handgun from any state, you can bring it to every state. So what I would encourage you to do is talk to your family and friends in other states where, like Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, there's no background check requirement, and 2/3 of all gun crime that happens in our state come from guns from out of state. So we've got to get people in other states active in putting pressure on their members of Congress. You can go to Stop Handgun Violence website and look at our petition. And also call your governor here and your Senate president and your House Speaker and thank them for their leadership, because they stood up to the NRA and made your state the safest state in the nation. And at some point, we will be a model for the rest of the country, and that is our hope. But it's going to get far worse before it gets better until Congress is forced to act the right way versus the wrong way. Thank you so much for being here, and look forward to working with you in the future.
I want to say do a little bit of a shift here. and talk about our citizens in Puerto Rico. And this is just a brief article by Sanjay Gupta, who's a physician and a journalist. And this is what he posted today. In Puerto Rico, I've heard the term several times a day, every day, as local doctors, mayors, and citizens worry that many of the most vulnerable citizens are at risk, mostly due to a failure of timely, coordinated response by the authorities, both federal and territorial. For want of insulin, blood pressure, medications, and antibiotics, things widely available in any neighborhood pharmacy in the U.S. mainland, the people in Puerto Rico are dying, preventable deaths. Puerto Rico was not a healthy island before the hurricanes devastated its infrastructure and lines of communications. Diabetes is rampant, residents are older and poorer than on the mainland, and an economic recession and shortage of medical specialists that preceded the storm, and now with all these other factors, you have the perfect storm. There may be tens of thousands of hardy people who survived the hurricane and are now struggling to stay alive in its aftermath. They are teetering on the edge with hardly any reserve. So we're here tonight to remember our sisters and brothers, our fellow citizens in Puerto Rico, and to advocate for their well-being through talking to our elected officials. And also there is a basket in the front with contributions that can be made. There's a group meeting this evening in Peabody. And so we want to offer an opportunity for people to make a financial contribution if they wish. And that organization is listed there in the basket, and you can make a check or drop us some bills, and we'll make sure that the money goes to support people through relief efforts in Puerto Rico. I'd like to invite our mayor, Mayor Mike Cahill, to come up and share some words. Let's welcome the mayor.
Thank you, Ken. Folks, I'm very proud and grateful to be here with you as we try to do something by coming together. And share our care and concern and love for everybody in Puerto Rico and all the victims and their loved ones in Las Vegas. I do want to pick up on, oh, thanks. I think I'm good, thanks. I do want to pick up on something, I think it was Kent that said it earlier, about first responders. And I was at the marathon in 2013 with my brother Ed, sister-in-law Liz, and nephew Liam. We had gone to the Red Sox game and then walked over to watch a couple friends cross the finish line. We were about 5 blocks from the first bomb and about 2 blocks from the second one, standing in front of the Heinz Convention Center. And what you know and you hear and you understand, but then you see, to see the police officers who were doing crowd details within seconds of the first blast, taking off in a full sprint towards the blast, to see the fire trucks within 45 to 60 seconds come bombing by and the ambulances all heading directly towards where the blast happened, it just reinforces the goodness and the bravery of all of our first responders. And you've all probably read this. Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, has in his lifetime an incredibly wise and loving person. He talked about when he was young and he would be upset by bad things that happened, and how his parents would say to him, look for the helpers, look for the people who run in, look for the people who care and make a difference and pick up and help. And I think that's important for all of us to remember when something goes horribly wrong. And we've heard of the stories of bravery just in Las Vegas in the last couple of days. I also want to say that there are a few things that become ever more clear and ever more apparent based on what we saw in Las Vegas, based on what we see whenever there is an act of hatred and terror, whether it's a knife, whether it's acid thrown in someone's face, whether it's a bomb, whether it's a mass shooting. Whenever we see that, it really hammers home certain realities and truths. And when it comes to shootings, it hammers home, and Mr. Rosenthal had a lot of detail that I don't possess, but it really hammers home the need for better gun control legislation in this country. And I do want to say, when we were here about a month and a half ago for our Rally for Peace that our friend Eliza Michaels, who's here tonight from the high school, Eliza put together, when we were here that day, I talked a little bit about the importance of getting involved, the importance of being willing to be political. Because a lot of people shy away from politics and a lot of people shy away from elections. And we do have great federal elected officials in this state. And when it comes to gun control, as I understand it, they're there. Congressman Moulton has been working to help support a group of candidates for next year's midterm congressional elections. And so we're in a good place with who's representing us in DC on a lot of issues that matter to us. If you have the time, if you have the money, if you have the inclination over the next year plus to go out of state with a little bit of your support and your advocacy, there are a group of great candidates who can help change those gun laws and change a lot of things about what's going on in Washington. And I just point you to Congressman Moulton's website to see who some of them are and see whether you might want to get involved, as I hope to do so, in their campaigns in other key states, key districts over the next 14 months. So I just mentioned that as a way we can take action as we're standing here knowing there needs to be a change. Another thing that's clear when you look at what keeps happening again and again is that we in this country need more mental health programs, more mental health resources, more mental health funding. And we know it, and again, that goes to, among other things, and very specifically, that goes to our elected officials at all levels and making sure they hear that from us and they know that and they support and prioritize what's so very important for a lot of reasons. Because as we know, most people who struggle with mental health issues don't end up killing people, but it happens. And so for a number of reasons, on a number of fronts, people with mental health issues need more help than they're getting, and we need to be actively involved in trying to make sure that happens through our elected officials' efforts. And then we also, whenever something happens like happened in Las Vegas or in Puerto Rico, we need to remember how important it is to tell the people in our lives who we really, our family, our close friends, our loved ones, and even people we run into here, those of us who are just neighbors in this community. We need to remember to tell each other that we love each other. We need to remember that, as Pastor Kelly said, life can be very fragile, and so we need to remember to tell each other what's in our hearts every day of our lives. And along those lines, as neighbors, as fellow Beverlyites or fellow human beings, or fellow people who care enough to be standing here tonight, I love all of you, because that really matters to say. And the last thing I want to say is we're very fortunate to be in the community we're in, because in Beverly there are wonderful people and there are wonderful institutions, and our faith institutions, our multi-faith coalition that has taken it upon themselves over the last couple of years to really kind of revitalize all your work together and throughout the congregations in the community. And organizations like our Human Rights Committee. Who do we have here? Rabbi Allison, you're on the Human Rights Committee. Anybody else here tonight? It's a wonderful group of people that have come together. The city, we created a Human Rights Committee. Should have been in place years ago, but it's in place now. And the Human Rights Committee is doing great work, and a lot of your friends and neighbors are members of that committee. There's all kinds of opportunity for you to participate and volunteer and help move the work of the committee forward, whether or not you're a named member of that committee. So I'd invite you, that's another way to get involved and to make our time here tonight, our shared caring and commitment to come out here tonight can have more impact if you take something away from here tonight as an action item, as something to do more. So I'd invite you to get involved with our Human Rights Committee, to get involved with the Multi-Faith Coalition, in any way you can, because there's a lot of great things happening. There are a lot of great things happening in Beverly. It's just part of what makes us a wonderful community. So I thank you all. I thank the Multi-Faith Coalition for coordinating and making this event happen tonight. And Kent, back to you. Thank you.
Mayor Cahill, it means a lot to all of us to have you here. Thank you. I'd like to invite John DiNardo to come up and share some music, and I'd like to ask Rabbi Allison and Pastor Kelly to come, and if you would grab, we have 2 buckets of candles there, and maybe begin to just distribute those. And as John begins to play, we'll be lighting the candles, and then Rabbi Allison will close us with a special prayer, a blessing. And we have Manny from, Pastor Manny from St. Peter's with us too. Welcome, Manny. Thank you.
Solitude and in silence, yeah, 'cause we're still together in this. We're together in this. Sure, we got our own politics. Yeah, we got our own religions. Still together in this.
still together in this. It's so beautiful. Thank you. I know everyone, all of you who are here this evening are here because you feel so deeply, and maybe even be feeling overwhelmed by the pain and the suffering that's happening around us, and be feeling horror at seeing what human beings are capable of doing to each other, as well as feeling horror when we see people turn away and not care about the suffering that's happening. So when we feel overwhelmed, it's so important, of course, to do what we're doing, which is to come together. And we pray for those who are suffering. We pray for those who have died. We pray for their families. We pray for all those who are suffering in body and spirit, for the first responders, and for all who are helping and giving and witnessing and doing whatever they can, whatever we can. We Jews just finished Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, when some of us beat our chests and apologize together for the transgressions, not only for each of us as individuals, but also of our own communities. Our tradition teaches that we are responsible for the actions of the whole community, the whole society. And so many of our heart-pounding prayers are in the we, in the plural, first person plural. We have sinned. Even if we individually didn't do the things in this litany of prayers, somebody has, and we are responsible for each other. And tonight, I stand here and I feel like I want to pound my chest once again in the rhythm of this liturgy, this ancient liturgy that we recited on our holiest of days, and for how we are failing as a community and as a society. And so here is my prayer. Holy One of blessing, in whose image we are all created, we know that we are all in this together. Forgive us for the sin we have committed against you by saying now is not the time for action. For the sin that we have committed against you by not believing that we are destroying your world and causing a magnitude more suffering. For the sin that we have committed against you by not heeding the warnings of experts and scientists and so many who know best about how to prevent gun violence, about how to help people in need, about saving our planet. For the sin that we have committed against you by not holding ourselves to the standards achieved by every other industrialized nation. And for the sin that we have committed against you by not trusting our sense of indignation, by not speaking louder or working harder to save the lives of your precious children. For these sins and more we ask forgiveness. The Hasidic masters teach that when we have the practice of reciting the sins and kind of pounding on our hearts, that it could actually be, instead of beating ourselves up, it could be an opening, a gentle knocking to open our hearts even more. And I think for so many of us who are here, that's maybe what we need our hearts are open already, you know, but to have that also be a way of feeling connected to each other, right? And so may the intentions of our hearts be strong enough to will our bodies towards the courageous actions that our nation craves, to act with love and compassion, and to treat all with dignity. Thank you so much for being here.